Hey guys, welcome to LALoveCreative, and today we're talking about the pros and cons of shooting film in 2022. Let's get it. Recently, I talked about some of my favorite tech gadgets, and one of the things was I recently picked up a EOS Rebel S, which is a film photography DSLR. Now, the reasons why I love this camera is, one, it's affordable. This camera costs about 40 bucks. It takes all of my EF lenses, so any EF lens you have, it can take. It has autofocus, it has aperture priority mode, it has auto modes, it has a lot of modes that you have grown accustomed to as a digital photographer. But at the same time, you can shoot film with it, and you can put any type of 35mm film you want in it and get that film look without having to buy really expensive film cameras or buy cameras that are more manual that lose out on a lot of the auto settings. Now, this is a good beginner camera if you're getting into film photography, because it feels like you can just kind of take your digital knowledge and transfer it over to this film photography camera. Now, I recently had a shoot, and I was shooting a model named Katie, awesome model, and I was in downtown, and I felt that this was a great situation where I could shoot some digital photos with my Canon R6, and I could also shoot some film photography with my Rebel S. In these images, I'm going to show you the digital and a film version, and you can try to see which one is which, and see if you can kind of get that film look on a digital image without having to buy film and purchase a lot of film and spend a lot of money doing that. Now, one of the first things I really love about shooting film photography is the image. The image that you get when you pick the right film. I was shooting on some Kodak Portra 160, some Fuji film. When you pick the right film, you can just get a lot of amazing images. Now, when you're shooting digital, a lot of times you try to emulate that film look. And as close as you can get, a lot of times you can get really close, especially with presets and new technology that they have out there. But one thing I love about shooting film is straight out of the box, when you shoot the photos and you correctly expose and get the looks you want, you get that filmic look without having to do much processing in post. One of the cons when it comes to, the filmic look when you're shooting, film, is it's baked in. There's no manipulation. There's really not much you can do to get rid of, grain, to change the colors in certain ways. You can try, but you really are messing with the image at that point, and you're not gonna be able to add and subtract like you would a digital image. A digital image will give you more of a blank negative that you can, do whatever you want to, and you always have the option to take back, you can always undo or delete layers, when you're working with those images. But film is take it or leave it, and that's a pro and a con. Now, one pro that's also a negative when it comes to film photography is you are limited to how many shots that roll particularly has. And that could be a pro or a con. I kind of like that. I think it's really cool that I have to take in consideration my composition. I have to take into consideration how things look lighting wise. I have to make sure I'm really exposed correctly, which I'll give a tip on how to do that if you don't really know how to do that. And it gives you a lot of different, limitations, but at the same time that allows you to be more creative in a lot of ways, because you only have maybe 3 rolls of film You have to be selective, and you really have to take photos that you really want. When you shoot digital, I don't know about you guys, but I shoot like 2,000 photos. I don't really think about it till later when I'm looking at the edit and I have 2,000 photos. So being able to shoot limited amounts of photos is a pro and a con, depending on how you look at it. One of the cool things I love about film photography is depending on the flavor of film you use, Kodak, Fuji, all different types of ISOs, Portrait 400, which is probably the most, respected one. You can get different looks, and it's kind of like picking filters for your look beforehand, before you even start shooting. And I just think that's really cool because it's almost like you're being creative before you even pick up the camera to shoot. One of the biggest cons that comes with film photography, in my opinion, is the cost of entry. Now, like I said before, film photography cameras can be really cheap. I bought mine for 40 bucks on Etsy. You can really do it. It's not a big deal when it comes to the cameras. You can, however, buy $10,000, $15,000, film photography cameras. Of course, they're out there. But the camera itself is not really the cost of entry I'm talking about. I'm talking about film prices. Film prices are so ridiculous. When I first started photography, we shot on film. Film was expensive, but wow, it's so expensive. A pack of Kodak Portrait 400 that I just recently purchased was about 80 bucks. Factor that in, so we got 80 bucks there. Then we have to get it developed. That could be another, if you have 4 rolls of film, that could be another $80, $90, depending on where you get it, processed and scanned. You're spending $200 for about 144 images. And yeah, that's really expensive. Now, there are cheaper ways you can do this. You can develop your film at home by yourself. So just keep that in mind when you're shooting film versus photography, that the cost of entry is extremely high. Another con when it comes to film photography that I think is more of a, it's a pro and a con, because I think film photography forces you to learn the basics and learn how to expose correctly and try your best to learn all that stuff. I think with a lot of digital cameras, you can get away with aperture priority mode, all these different modes. A lot of times you're gonna have to use manual settings, and I would say 90% of the times, and you're gonna wanna make sure that you have an understanding of that, or later when you get your photos developed, you will waste a lot of money with, shitty photos. So you're gonna wanna learn the basics of aperture, ISO, shutter speed, all of those things. And that's a pro and a con, because it's not as easy to just jump and grab a film photography camera. One of the biggest tricks that I found when using a photography camera versus a digital camera is to get your settings in camera using your digital camera. Get the exposure the way you want it, get it the way you look, get the look the way you want it, and then copy those settings to your manual camera. And that's my quick tip when it comes to how to expose using a digital camera and a film photography camera. One of the biggest cons I have about film photography, and one of the reasons why I would never just shoot exclusively film, is film photography can be kind of hard when you're in a client situation. For me, when I'm shooting with a client, my client wants to see those images. They want to see what you're doing. They want to see if they need to fix the hair. They want to see every step of the way when you're shooting the photography. Just know from a client perspective, if you have clients on set, they're going to want to see images, and I don't know if you can just shoot exclusively on film when it comes to those situations. So that's all I have to say about the pros and cons of film photography in 2022. If you have any questions about film photography or videography in general, hit me up in the comments below, and I will see you next time. Peace.